My mom demands my fiancé and I move in with her after we get married, and I just find it weird, but I don't really know what to do. Life can be really funny at times. You could be crying for something that someone else hates while the person's just wishing to have what's yours. Welcome to my world, or what used to be my world. I'm the only child of a very successful businesswoman who had a leading tech company. My mother, Priscilla, was 50 years and still unmarried. Not that she wished to anyways. She did not have a pleasant childhood as she grew up in a foster home where she was abused by her foster father, who threatened to deal with her if she spoke up. The whole experience made her view men in a different way. The hatred and resentment which she had towards men led her to developing a kind of sexual desire. One which she would use men for her pleasure without actually committing herself to them. This was why marriage was a no to her, because she would never want to submit to a man. She did not want anything that would make her feel inferior or helpless towards a guy. As a matter of fact, most of the employees in her tech company called Zenit were men, though she was not really sleeping with them. It just gave her satisfaction knowing that men were serving her. I guess that's because she kind of saw her foster father in every man. I get where she's coming from. I understand that she never wants to be that vulnerable young girl that was taken advantage of anymore, and that's why she constantly sought to have power, or the upper hand every other man that she's come in contact with. But this was actually killing her and her son, me. Being so rich and powerful meant that she had few suitors willing to date her because most men were just intimidated by her wealth and power. The few men who actually dated her had an experience that they would never want to relive, as she was always wanting to be in charge. After various failed relationships, which were usually her fault, she decided to adopt me and focus on her job and career while paying for the services of toy boys, as she called them, when she needed to satisfy her urge. I had everything at my disposal growing up. My mother made sure of that. She played the role of both father and mother very well. 1,000,000 persons would crave just to have a fraction of what I have, or wish that we traded places just for a few seconds. If only they knew better. Don't get me wrong though, I am and have always been appreciative of the fact that I have a mother who would buy me the moon if I asked for it, but the whole privilege which I enjoyed came at a very steep price. One which many of the people who now envied me would not be willing to pay. Right from the days when my mother came into my life, she's treated me just as she's treated the men she's dated. She loved and still loved me, no doubt, but she was very clingy. She kept tabs on me all day, all the time. When I was bullied or had any issues with someone, she saw it to it that I was not subdued. She had to personally vet people that came around me, though you could say that it was a sense of great parenting. Most people avoided me like a plague simply because of my mother all throughout my high school. Well, college was even worse. I had no say towards what I do after graduation. My mom basically decided that I had to join her in the business empire that she was building since I was going to handle the reins someday. Working in my mother's firm meant that I was going to spend even more of my time with Mom. We went everywhere together. That one would mistake us for lovers, and this greatly affected my love life. I was rich, successful, and an eligible bachelor, but every lady who knew my mother wanted nothing to do with me. I can recall a few ladies that I've dated, and it did not end up well. My mother had to directly or indirectly push them away, as they were always not good enough for me in her words. I was 25, but was yet to find a lover who was willing to look beyond my demanding mother and build a lasting relationship with me. As time went by, though, I met with Maureen, and we both clicked together. As expected, just as my previous relationships, we began having issues because Mom, whom she was yet to meet in person, was always coming between she and I. I would not make a move without thinking about what my mom thought. The little time we shared was always cut short because Mom always needed me by her side. Her excuse was that I needed to see the way she ran my future business. Nothing tells a lady that you're taking her seriously like when you introduce her to your family, and this was what Maureen wanted. She wanted to meet my mom, and I knew that it was just a bad idea. I tried stalling the whole process a bit, at least so that our little fling, which was barely 2 months old, would last a little while before my mom broke us up. Maureen became insistent about it, and that was when I told her that my mom was not your typical everyday woman. She was hard. My reasons sounded like excuses to Maureen, and she further insisted that my mom was not as difficult as I was claiming. She further stated that she had gotten along with people far worse than my mother. Her confidence did not fool me, as I knew there was really no one like my mom, but I had to give in to her demands. Since she wanted to meet with my mom, then there was little I could do. I remember telling my mom that I had a friend who wanted to meet. My mother acted as though she was not interested in meeting Maureen, but she did ask me to come with this friend the next day. I did not inform her that I've been secretly dating Maureen for 2 months, and that was because I wanted her to pass Maureen through a lesser scrutiny than that which she had subjected my previous lovers to. If she learnt Maureen was just a friend, she would go easy on her. But when she knew that she was my lover, then they would come down real hard on her. Maureen finally got her wish as I took her the next day to meet with my mom at her home. She had barely greeted my mom when my mom welcomed her by calling out her full name. Maureen Cole. I thought Maureen and I had been discreet enough, but it turned out that my mom was well aware of the situation the whole time. Silly me. I'd forgotten who I was dealing with. With a mom who ran a tech firm, I was not to be surprised that my phone may have been bugged all along. Mom wore a blanket smile as she offered Maureen a seat. It was clear to me that she was aware Maureen was no ordinary friend, and she would come down really hard on her as a lesson to me, so that I would not try deceiving her in the future. Maureen and my mother surprisingly got along well. With my mother's permission, Maureen and I became an official couple, but one thing was certain: it was not a love affair between two people. It was a love triangle that consisted of a lady, her lover, and her lover's mother. My mom always wanted to dictate what, how, where, and when we did things, even though I was 25. She would not just let me make decisions for myself. I knew that it was really getting on Maureen's nerves, just like it did those before her, even though she tried hiding the fact that it bothered her. I mean, which lady will be comfortable having her lover's mother dictate when she and her lover would go out, spend time together, and heck, even have sex? Maureen had to swallow the whole thing, at least till we got married and left the grip of my mother behind. That was her plan, but my mother had her own plan. Maureen and I got engaged, followed my mother's suggestions, of course, and my mother gave her a car as a gift. My lover was thrilled when the gift was presented to her, but I knew that gift was a reward for following my mom's every suggestion without any form of objection. As a matter of fact, if Maureen had objected to any of my mom's opinions and regards on how our relationship should go, that would have been the end of our love story right then and there. Our wedding date was fixed, and Mom was in charge of organizing the ceremony and party. That was just Mom, always being in charge. While preparations were underway, she had to make Maureen undergo certain culinary lessons and all manner of rubbish in order to ensure Maureen would take care of her son just as she did. I was not happy with that. Maureen was from an average family, and though her parents or anyone affiliated to her never controlled the kind of wealth and influence which my mother did, she was properly raised to know her duty as a woman in the home. And I just did not understand why Mom had to subject Maureen to such lessons. I am not a god. I'm a human being, and just like every other person who walked this earth, including my mother, I had my own flaws too. My mom just failed to understand that no matter the training or whatever she subjected Maureen to, Maureen would never be the perfect, as just as she's being my mother was for perfection. Maureen just obeyed because we would soon get married and leave my mom for good. Maureen and I had been house hunting since we got engaged, and we had some options which we were yet to decide on. A week to our wedding, and my mom called us to let us know that we would be living with her after marriage. This was the height. How could Mom make such a demand? It was at this point I protested. For the first time in my life, I stood up to my mother. But it meant nothing. Mom insisted that it was for our own good. She claimed that as a young couple, we needed guidance and direction to deal with the issues that would come up in our early stage of marriage. She just failed to see that she was the issue in our lives already. The more I resisted, the more she persisted until she finally said that there would be no marriage, except when we moved in with her. I couldn't let the wedding be called off just 2 weeks to the time. Maureen did not deserve such embarrassment. After much deliberation, Maureen and I decided to yield to her demand and hope that it would not turn out to be so bad, even though we knew that my mom would make a terrible mother-in-law. The wedding day finally came, and Maureen and I exchanged our vows in front of high-profile individuals in the society. Mom had done a good job organizing the whole event. It was near perfection. She had arranged for us to have a 2-week honeymoon in the Maldives, after which we moved in with her. It was all nice at first. Mom was up and doing, making sure that we were comfortable, but somewhere along the line, things began turning sour as my mom began getting all too involved in our privacy. It was then that my wife and I decided that we had to leave for good. We hatched up a plan which involved me feigning my death, but it would take us months before we executed it because we needed to gather enough money that could last us for a lifetime, as there's no coming back once this plan's in motion. At this point in time, I did not care about the empire which I was going to forfeit. My peace of mind and privacy was much more important than the wealth and privileges which staying with my mom brought. We opened an offshore account and began saving in it. As the days went by, there was one saga or the other which my mother's busy body had caused, but Maureen and I just ignored her because we knew that her days in our lives were numbered. 8 months have passed since we got married, and we were finally ready to execute our plan. We were careful not to get pregnant because if my mother discovered after I've supposedly died that Maureen was carrying her grandchild, then it meant that Maureen was not going to be free from her grasp, as she would treat the grandchild as though it were me. And that meant keeping the child close to her at all times. My mom received a call one evening that I've been involved in a ghastly motor accident. Upon getting to the accident scene, she broke down in tears, as the car which had been caught up in flames had a corpse inside that was burnt beyond recognition. It was my car. I was seen driving it out of the office premises, so the identity of the driver was not much of a mystery. My mom broke down in tears. She was inconsolable, just as my wife Maureen was. My mother mourned me for days while I absorbed the whole thing from a distance. My wife knew I was safely hiding somewhere in the city, but she still played the part of grieving widow very well. I was heartbroken when Maureen told me that my mother had fallen ill as a result of my demise. I almost called the whole thing off. But that would mean that I would go back to living with my mom, and that was something neither I nor Maureen could take. My mother had my remains cremated, and the ashes were kept in her residence. She even made plans of opening an orphanage in memory of me. A few months after my supposed passing, and Maureen's informed my mother that she needed to go away for a while in order to heal properly. She claimed that everything in my mother's house reminded her of me. My mother understood and told her that her door will always be open to her, despite the fact that I was dead. Oh my gosh, the plan was coming to me. And then we would elope. We'll be living in Seychelles in Eastern Africa with the forged passports which we had obtained. Maureen met with me at the secret apartment while I was waiting for her with my bags all packed up and ready to go. We made to leave, but we were shocked to our bones when we opened the door to find my mother standing right in front of us. She was so disappointed, to say the least. Apparently, she had known about the plan at some point, and that was because she kept close tabs on me to observe the repeated withdrawals that I was making from my account during the months we were planning our escape. It was then she closely kept an eye on me. She knew the whole accident and death was a hoax. She cleverly had the DNA results of the cadaver as proof that the corpse, which I had arranged to be burnt, was not mine. She just played along, like the evil villain she is. So all that time that we felt we were playing her and getting away, she was actually playing us. My mom had played along so well to see how far I was willing to go with my plan. She was shocked that I was so close to go to this great length just to leave her for life, even to the point of forfeiting my inheritance. She tried painting Maureen as a negative influence over my life, but I defended my wife. I made her see that she was not just ruining my life as a result of her love, she was taking my life away from me. Whatever trauma she may be suffering in the past should not lead to her ruining her life and relationship with others. My mother cried. It dawned on her that I would do anything to leave her if she did not give me my space. She pleaded that I and Maureen throw out plans and just come home. She promised to let us move out of the house once we got a place, but she pleaded that we came visiting once in a while and that we don't run away for life. Well, guys, I think that was a fair deal. Everyone was pleased, even though I had my doubts that she would stick to her end of the bargain and give us some breathing space. Nonetheless, it's been 3 months, and Maureen was now pregnant. Well, we'll be going to visit Mom in 3 days' time to spend a week with her. So far, we've had our privacy. Make sure you subscribe to the channel just in case this mother decides to go back on her plans, because you're not going to want to miss that update. Guys, I cannot even imagine being led to the point of faking your own death just so you can enjoy your life with your fiancé or significant other. It's very sad in how toxic, manipulative, and just plain up narcissistic the mom of today's story was. I have one question for you guys. If you were in OP's position and you were having to deal with this over and over, being the adopted son, let me know what you would do if this exact scenario was in your dinner plate, and you had to figure out how you can have a nice life, raise your family, start your own beginning, when the mother of this story would just not stop. Nothing but dauntfulness every single corner, vile, toxic mess. Drop your thoughts down below, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because I have daily videos if you're into that kind of thing. You can find my other channels in the description below for even more content. Alright guys, remember, it's cool to be kind. I'll see you in the next one.